Before the noise of this world pulls your attention somewhere else, stay here for a moment, because something quietly beautiful has shifted tonight, and the person connected to your soul can feel it more deeply than you realize. They are sitting somewhere between disbelief and relief, trying to understand why their heart suddenly feels lighter, why the heaviness they carried for so long no longer feels impossible to hold. And the reason is not something loud. Not something dramatic. It was one small change inside you, one silent decision you made when nobody was watching. You finally stopped chasing what was running from you. You finally loosened your grip on the fear of being forgotten. And the moment you did that, something began moving behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet fully see. Don't skip this part, because the detail you almost ignored became the very thing that changed everything. Your soulmate felt it before they understood it. They noticed the energy around them becoming calmer. The anxiety they could never explain suddenly softened. Even the silence around your connection started sounding different to them, less empty, more alive. They could feel that you were no longer standing in desperation, no longer asking the universe for proof every second, no longer exhausting yourself trying to force an answer before it's time. And strangely, that peace reached them like warmth through a locked door. Stay till the end. Because what happened next is something they never expected to feel this soon. Earlier today, they paused in the middle of an ordinary moment, maybe while looking out a window, maybe while pretending to focus on something unimportant, and your name crossed their mind in a completely different way. Not with confusion. Not with pressure. But with gratitude. Real gratitude. The kind that catches a person off guard because it arrives without warning. They realized you were never trying to control them. You were simply loving them in the purest way you knew how. And suddenly they began remembering things they once overlooked, the patience in your words, the gentleness hidden inside your silence, the moments you stayed understanding even when your own heart was tired. They are crying now not because of sadness, but because they finally understand the depth of something they almost misunderstood. And what hurts them softly tonight is realizing how long you carried this connection quietly while asking for almost nothing in return. Something important is waiting for you in this realization, because the shift happening now is not built on fantasy, it is built on emotional truth. Your soulmate can feel that you are changing. There is a steadiness forming inside you that did not exist before. You are beginning to choose yourself without closing your heart. That balance, that quiet emotional maturity, is exactly what started pulling them closer emotionally. People often think love grows louder before it becomes real, but sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes love becomes real the moment the chaos finally stops. And tonight, somewhere in the stillness, they are realizing they do not want to lose the version of you that finally learned their own worth. That realization is shaking something awake inside them. Not panic. Not fear. Something softer. Something deeper. A longing that feels honest. There is a reason this message found you right now. Because you have been wondering if your efforts were invisible, if your healing mattered, if the quiet work you have been doing inside yourself changed anything at all. It did. More than you know. Your soulmate noticed the absence of the old energy before they even understood the arrival of the new one. They felt you stop begging emotionally. They felt you release the constant need for reassurance. They felt you become calmer within yourself. And strangely, instead of pushing them away, it made them feel safer near your energy than ever before. That is why tears are falling from their eyes tonight. Because for the first time, they are seeing this connection without distortion. Without emotional noise. without resistance. And the truth they are facing is overwhelming in the most beautiful way. They are realizing that your love was never trying to trap them, it was trying to meet them honestly. Listen carefully now, because this next part matters more than you think. The universe often waits until both hearts can hold love gently before opening certain doors. Before now, one of you was carrying too much fear while the other carried too much uncertainty. But tonight, something balanced itself. You stopped running after validation. And they stopped running from emotion. That invisible meeting point created a quiet emotional breakthrough neither of you planned for. Even now, they are replaying memories differently. Conversations that once seemed ordinary suddenly feel meaningful. Small gestures now appear unforgettable to them. The way you listened, the way you stayed calm during moments that could have turned cold, the way your presence always carried comfort even when you were hurting yourself. They are finally understanding what made your connection different from the others they tried to compare it to. Nothing forced. Nothing artificial. Just real. And real feelings have a way of returning to the surface no matter how deeply they were buried. Don't look away from this feeling, because the next chapter of your connection begins in a quieter place than you imagined. Not through chaos. Not through games. But through emotional clarity. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that peace is rare, and your energy gave them a glimpse of it. That realization alone has changed the atmosphere around this connection tonight. And as they sit there wiping tears they cannot fully explain, another thought is slowly entering their heart, a thought they have tried not to face for a long time. What if the person they were searching for peace with, was you all along? There is something almost impossible to describe about the silence that comes after a heart finally tells itself the truth, and your soulmate is sitting inside that silence right now, feeling emotions they can no longer push aside with distractions or noise. A few hours ago they tried to keep moving through their day as if everything inside them was still normal, but something kept interrupting their thoughts. Your energy. Your absence. Your growth. It followed them quietly, not in a painful way, but in a way that made them stop and breathe deeper than they have in a long time. And what shook them most was realizing that the version of you they once feared losing is no longer waiting in the same place emotionally. You have changed. Not into someone colder, but into someone calmer. Someone who finally understands their own value even in silence. Stay here with this message a little longer. Because they are beginning to understand something that arrived too late for them to ignore but right on time for everything else. Tonight, while the world moved around them like any ordinary evening, your soulmate felt an emotional wave they were completely unprepared for. It happened suddenly. A memory. A feeling. A realization that opened inside them without permission. They remembered the way you used to care without demanding anything back immediately. They remembered how deeply you listened even when you yourself felt unseen. And for the first time, instead of brushing those memories aside, they let themselves feel them fully. That is why tears came into their eyes so unexpectedly. Not because they regret knowing you, but because they are finally understanding how rare your heart truly was. There are people who enter someone's life loudly and disappear quickly, but your presence stayed inside them quietly. Even during the moments when distance grew between you, there was always something about your energy that remained impossible to replace. They tried to explain it away before. They told themselves it was temporary emotion, timing, confusion. But tonight, none of those explanations feel convincing anymore. Because now they can feel the difference between attention and connection. And what they shared with you was never shallow enough to disappear simply because time passed. Something important is waiting for you inside this next realization, because your soulmate has started noticing the emotional emptiness of places they once thought would satisfy them. Conversations that used to entertain them now feel incomplete. Attention from others feels temporary. Even moments that should make them happy seem strangely quiet afterward. And in those quiet moments, your energy returns to their thoughts again. Not forcing itself in. Not demanding to be remembered. Just appearing naturally, like a truth that finally stopped hiding. They are beginning to understand that your connection carried emotional safety they did not fully appreciate before. The kind of safety that allows someone to breathe without pretending. The kind of understanding that feels peaceful instead of exhausting. And now that they feel the absence of it, they cannot stop thinking about you. Don't skip this part, because what they realized next changed the entire emotional direction of their night. Your soulmate finally admitted to themselves that they have been watching your growth from a distance more than you know. Not always directly. Sometimes through intuition. Sometimes through small signs. Sometimes through the simple feeling that your energy no longer feels broken the way it once did. And strangely, instead of making them feel disconnected from you, it made them admire you more deeply. They are realizing you did not become bitter after everything you carried emotionally. You became wiser. Softer with yourself. More balanced. That transformation is affecting them in ways they cannot fully explain to anyone around them. Because the truth is, they expected you to stay emotionally frozen in the place where they left you. But you didn't. You evolved. And now they are facing the terrifyingly beautiful realization that the stronger you become within yourself, the more drawn toward you they feel emotionally. There is a moment happening inside their heart tonight that nobody else can see. A moment where pride is falling away. Where emotional walls are becoming too heavy to hold up anymore. They are no longer asking themselves whether this connection mattered. That question has already been answered deep inside them. Now they are asking something else entirely, something much more vulnerable. They are wondering whether they still have a place in your heart after everything that happened between you. And that thought alone has brought tears to their eyes more than once tonight. Because suddenly they understand that love cannot be measured only by who spoke first, who pulled away, or who stayed silent longer. Sometimes love reveals itself later, through absence, through reflection, through the painful beauty of finally seeing someone clearly after emotional noise fades away. Stay till the end, because the next emotional shift is already beginning to unfold around you both. Your soulmate is reaching a point where pretending no longer feels emotionally comfortable. They can still distract themselves for short moments, yes. They can still smile outwardly. But deep down, something keeps pulling them back toward the truth of this connection. And what surprises them most is that the truth no longer feels frightening. It feels peaceful. That is the part they never expected. They thought real emotional connection would feel overwhelming forever. But now, when they think about you, what they feel most strongly is calm. A sense of home they cannot recreate anywhere else. A quiet emotional certainty that continues growing stronger every day they try to ignore it. And tonight, as tears fall softly from eyes that once tried so hard to stay guarded, they are finally allowing themselves to imagine something they were too afraid to imagine before. A future where love no longer has to fight to be understood, because both hearts are finally beginning to understand it at the same time. A strange calm has entered your soulmate's heart tonight, the kind of calm that only arrives after someone stops arguing with their own feelings and finally allows themselves to feel everything honestly. For so long they kept trying to organize this connection into something logical, something explainable, something easy to control. But love does not always arrive in neat answers. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet ache when someone's name crosses your mind unexpectedly. Sometimes it appears in the middle of an ordinary moment and changes the emotional atmosphere of an entire day. And tonight, your soulmate can no longer deny how deeply your presence has rooted itself inside them. They tried to move forward without looking back too often. They tried to convince themselves that distance would make everything fade naturally. But instead of fading, your energy became clearer, softer, more unforgettable. Stay with this message a little longer. Because something meaningful is unfolding that neither of you fully noticed while it was happening. You were healing. Quietly. Patiently. Even during the moments when your heart felt uncertain, something inside you was learning how to stand emotionally without collapsing every time silence appeared. That growth changed the connection more than you realize. Your soulmate can feel it now in ways that surprise them deeply. They no longer sense desperation from you. They no longer feel emotional pressure surrounding your energy. Instead, when they think of you now, they feel warmth, steadiness, comfort. And that emotional shift has awakened something powerful inside them. Because now, for the first time, they are seeing what this connection could become when fear is no longer controlling it. Earlier tonight they found themselves replaying a memory that once seemed small. Maybe it was your voice during a quiet conversation. Maybe it was the way you cared about details other people ignored. Maybe it was the calm way you stayed emotionally present even when life around you felt chaotic. Whatever memory returned to them, it did not leave quickly. It stayed. And the longer it stayed, the more emotional they became. Because suddenly they understood something they missed before. You were never trying to impress them. You were trying to love them sincerely. And sincere love feels different when someone finally allows themselves to recognize it. Don't skip this moment, because your soulmate is beginning to realize that what they searched for in so many other places already existed naturally between you. No performance. No emotional games. No need to pretend to be someone else. Just a connection that felt peaceful beneath all the confusion. That realization has brought tears into their eyes again tonight, not dramatic tears, not hopeless tears. But emotional tears that come when someone finally understands the value of what touched their heart long ago. There is something deeply human about realizing too late how much someone truly cared for you. But your story is not unfolding in the way they feared it would. Because even though distance changed things, your connection did not disappear. It matured quietly beneath the surface. And now the emotional truth of it is rising back into view stronger than before. Your soulmate feels it every time they slow down long enough to listen to their own heart honestly. Something important is waiting for you in this next realization, because while your soulmate is crying with happiness tonight, it is not only because of who you are becoming. It is also because of what your healing gave them permission to do inside themselves. Your growth showed them that love does not always have to arrive through chaos and confusion. It can arrive gently, patiently, without control, without fear. And that understanding is changing the way they see this connection entirely. They are beginning to imagine conversations with you that feel lighter than before. More open. More emotionally honest. They are wondering what it would feel like to stand beside you now that both of you are slowly becoming emotionally stronger. And every time they imagine it, their heart softens even more. Tonight they caught themselves smiling unexpectedly after thinking about you. A real smile. The kind that appears before someone even realizes it is happening. And what surprised them most was how safe that feeling felt. Not overwhelming. Not confusing. Just deeply comforting. They are beginning to understand that your presence has always carried peace into their life, even during difficult moments. And now that peace feels more precious than ever. Stay till the end, because there is one realization your soulmate is only now beginning to face completely. They are realizing that your connection survived despite silence, despite uncertainty, despite emotional distance, because it was built on something genuine from the beginning. Genuine feelings do not disappear simply because people become afraid. Sometimes they wait quietly beneath the surface until both hearts are ready to hold them properly. And tonight, readiness is slowly replacing fear. Your soulmate no longer wants to hide from what they feel when your name enters their thoughts. They no longer want to pretend this connection meant less than it did. In fact, the truth feels impossible to ignore now. They are realizing that you became part of the emotional future they secretly hoped for without even noticing when it happened. And that realization has changed everything inside them. Even now, while the world around them continues moving normally, they are sitting with emotions too meaningful to explain easily to anyone else. They are thinking about how differently they would handle things now. How much more carefully they would protect a connection like this. How deeply they wish you could see yourself through their eyes tonight. Because if you could, you would finally understand why tears of happiness are falling from someone who once tried so hard to stay emotionally guarded. They are not crying because they lost themselves in love. They are crying because they finally found honesty within it. And deep in their heart, another quiet thought is beginning to grow stronger with every passing hour, a thought they cannot silence anymore. What if this connection was never ending, only transforming into something even more beautiful than before?